there's been so many times where we can't do anything on the ambulance except for hold their hand. And that's what you do. You hold their hand. If you can make that fear go down even in the slightest, you've done your job.
I took the concept of sleeping so many minutes and then just hiking as far as I could. So a lot of times on my speed record, I would sleep right on the trail, and then I would sleep till someone would walk by, and then I'd wake up and they'd ask me basically if I was okay. And I was like, yeah, thanks, man. You just woke me up. I'm ready to go again.
Humanity is one, and there's only one way forward for everybody. Men, women, white, black, green, blue, Muslim, Jewish, Catholics. The only way forward is all together.
You know, Jesse might not have ever gotten a college degree, Aaron, but Jesse was out doing something every day. He made a difference, and the outpouring of love has been phenomenal.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the podcast. As this episode is being released, Christmas has come and gone, so I want to say Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. I really hope that you were able to spend your Christmas with family or friends or somebody that you care about in your life. I just wanted to take a few minutes before this episode begins and thank a few people in my life. First of all, I want to say thank you to the people who are listening to the podcast, because that's one of the reasons why I continue recording this podcast. Secondly, I want to thank the people who have helped me along the way, you know, in the building of the new set, maybe in the filming of the first few episodes of the video podcast, which is on YouTube. You can go check that out. I really started this podcast because I wanted to become a better communicator. I also wanted to be inspired by other people as well as inspire others. But this really wasn't the plan for this to continue like this. You know, another person that I cannot forget to thank is my wife. I want to say thank you to my wife because, you know, when people are off playing around on the weekends, when people are sitting at home in the evenings, just hanging out and relaxing, I am obsessing. I tend to be an obsessive person, and so I'm obsessing about the podcast. I'm researching people who I want to have on the podcast. I'm researching the people who are on the podcast, and I'm continuing to try to make the podcast more interesting for the listeners. And so, you know, thank you to my wife for continuing to put up with my insanity in all of this, but you know, I really would not be able to do this without her support and her standing behind me in all of this. Now, the new year is almost here. It is fast approaching, and I am really excited about the Simply Overcoming podcast in 2022. I already have some very exciting guests lined up for the next year, and I really am excited to see the video podcast grow and expand. Right now, we only have a few people watching on YouTube compared to Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify, but I'm excited to see that continue to grow. You know, and there's a lot of other projects that we're working on here at the Simply Overcoming podcast. This is not just about the podcast, it's about so much more. And so as these things start to come out, I'm excited to be sharing them with you guys. But again, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. I really hope that the Simply Overcoming podcast has been a benefit to you in 2021, and I hope that we can continue to bring inspiring and relevant stories to you, to continue to inspire you and to help you grow in your spiritual walk, in your physical walk, in this life. Now, I want to jump into today's episode, and today I decided I needed to release a recap episode of some of my favorite conversations that I've had over the last year with some amazing people around the world. And so I really hope you enjoy this episode. It's just going to be a whole collage of short conversations, excerpts from some of the episodes from over the last year. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and as always, have a great day.
We really want that awareness of what your first responders do for you. Another statistic, I guess, 80% of our EMS in the United States is volunteer. And so
really?
So if you think about it, all of the rural communities, they are all volunteer. Even our rural department here in Missoula Rural Fire Department, fantastic organization. They are half volunteer, half professional firefighters. the reason why it's such a big deal to help out with the mental status of our first responders is they are not getting compensated for this. They're not getting compensated for their services, and they're coming out to some of the worst things that anybody can see.
I know, my wife Lexi, she worked with you. She's a paramedic, and we talk about this, especially during this time of coronavirus. So many people, mainstream media, people are talking about our nurses who are on the front lines, but there's not a whole lot of talk about the people who are actually entering the house that's full of trash, wading through the trash, pulling the person out of their own feces and hauling them to the hospital. I mean, that is really out there on the front lines. And I mean, that's just EMS. That's not even talking about, all the police officers are having to go through during this time, and all the firefighters. And it's just an incredible community. And these people care deeply. They love deeply. And there is a reason why people are in this, but we need to support our first responders, and we need to show them the love and the care that they deserve and that they need.
And this is not something that you can go home and talk to people about it all the time. Fortunately, my boyfriend is a veteran, and he has seen just as bad of things as I have, if not worse. Well, probably worse on most occasions. But not everybody has that. Not everybody has a support that they can go home to and talk about things because they don't want to share that with their spouse. And it's something that it's the funniest thing, because I don't think I've ever met a group of people who feel more. So, and I'm going to maybe get a little bit teary on this, because all of these people that I've worked with, all of the first responders that I've met, they just have a passion. And you have to, because you don't make very much money in this business. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I knew when I married my wife, being in the work that she's in, I really have a special one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
and it needs to be recognized, and it's something that isn't recognized enough.
And I will talk about, so I am not a paramedic, I'm an EMT. So thankfully I don't have to make decisions like Lexi has to make. I do not have a desire to be a paramedic because I have my passion being in the outdoors. And so, but I was on a call where there was a baby involved, and 23 months old. So you still technically consider them a baby. And the impact that call had on me for 2 years, like, it has taken a long time for me to really come over the top of that call, especially since I'm a mom myself. And I'm very empathetic, which sometimes I was wondering if that was going to be my downfall for this kind of work. But come to find out, because I asked one day, I said, I don't know how I'm ever going to not feel on some of these calls. And he goes, you're not ever supposed to stop feeling. And that was probably one of the most profound, simplest answers to that question that you could ever have. But you can't stop feeling, because then you don't move forward on it. And so when it came to that, and the paramedic that I was working with on that call, just seeing his response and his reaction, and everybody deals with all of their own emotional stuff differently. And some people keep it in, and some people talk a lot more about it. But when it comes to the empathy side, I think first responders are probably some of the most empathetic people you'll ever meet. And it doesn't matter if they only get paid $15 an hour, they're still going to be there for you. And they have some of the best bedside manner. There's been so many times where we can't do anything on the ambulance except for hold their hand. And that's what you do. You hold their hand and make sure that if you can make that fear go down even in the slightest, you've done your job.
Hmm.
And so it's definitely a different world. And I think community awareness is such a big deal, because you don't think about it until you do. You don't think about it until one day your mom is on the floor and you have to call 911, or your child is on the floor and you have to call 911. But they're going to be there whether or not they're being paid for it or not. They're going to be there.
Hmm.
And so I think that's where I am so much more passionate than I ever thought I would be about this. But
I can tell that you're so proud to be a part of the community. I just thank you for what you do, and thank you for all of the EMS workers out there, the first responders who are out there, who show up when the community calls. That's incredible. And like you said, it's something that we don't think about, because we are just so used to making that call and somebody shows up. Somebody always shows up. Beyond grateful to the people who are out there working 24/7 to keep our communities safe and to save the lives of so many people, and to be there to hold the hand of that person in the back of the ambulance.
I think this is kind of an interesting thing to share. I don't know if you've ever heard how EMS started.
I don't know. I haven't.
Did you know EMS was not started by hospitals?
I did not.
Take a guess of who EMS was started by.
I would have no idea. The community? I don't know.
The Department of Transportation.
Really?
Mm-hmm. And it was started in the 70s. So EMS is a baby. I mean, it's not something that's been, instead of, they used to just send, that's why, okay, if you look way back in the day, what an ambulance used to look like, it was a hearse, because they used to just send hearses out there.
Wow.
Yep. And so EMS was started by the Department of Transportation in order to try, because of all of the accidents that were happening.
I did not know that.
So I guess another thing, like most ambulance companies in the United States are privately owned. There's only not very many that are actually hospital owned. They're all privately owned.
I'm glad you bring that up, because that's really important for people to understand. Because a lot of fire departments are owned by the city, right?
So fire departments are federally owned.
Federally owned.
You can get, with fire departments, you can get grants, and that's how all the volunteer fire departments have the ability to purchase the things that they can get. So fire departments are paid solely by your tax money. And the fire department has so many different, so when they come out with levies, trying to make sure to have enough money to fund the salaries of the fire departments and fund all of the trucks and everything like that, take into consideration the fact that all of these towns are growing and they need the money to be able to staff them. So it's June 1st. And just our ambulance company alone has run almost 5,000 calls already. And we're small, like we're a smaller town compared to say Las Vegas or San Diego. And I mean, where they have multiple ambulance companies, but the fire departments, they're running off of grants, and they're going to be a lot of times so an ambulance runs with 2 people on it, and a fire truck runs with 3. And so, I mean, when you think about that, sometimes we're hauling out 400-pound people and we need help. And so there's no way that 2 of us are going to be able to get it. And sometimes it takes all 5 people to be able to get that person out. And so Kalispell is having some issues with levies are being denied, and the fire department isn't getting the money to staff the way that they need to. And so that's kind of that's a whole nother story, but that's an interesting situation. But just thinking about the fact that, like, when that comes up in your thought process, to make sure you realize that, hey, when I need to call 911, I would like them to be there. And so
Yeah.
I would
And-
like to fund that fire department to make sure that they are there when I need them. And so, and that goes for volunteer fire departments too. They just don't, I mean, depending on where that is, they don't have a call volume enough to where it's, they don't keep a staff on it. But I have never come across a volunteer fire department that isn't there pretty quick as soon as their pagers come off. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's really important for people to understand. A lot of fire departments, they're being paid by your taxes as well as the police department. So it's very different when it comes to ambulance services. And that's something I had no idea about until Lexi started explaining that to me. I didn't know. And I'm sure most people out there have no idea that that's the case.
And I think that's a big thing to kind of explain. I mean, one piece of equipment that we have on our ambulance that is called a life pack is like a $25,000 piece of equipment. And that's not including everything else. I mean, that's a pretty major part of some things that we do. That's the AED, that's the checking your heart on 12 leads, and being able to transmit the fact that we've got a patient that's having a STEMI to the hospital is a big thing, because being able to have that team ready to go as soon as that person comes through the door, because they already see the STEMI on the transmission, it's significant.
So I would really like to transition and talk a little bit more about your speed record, for people out there who have no concept in their mind of what it takes to beat a speed record like this on the Appalachian Trail. What kind of miles were you doing every day?
So when I first started, the first day I did 60.1, I believe. I basically trained, training is huge. So to do my main idea of the Appalachian Trail speed record, I did about 1,500 miles. So I did from Ghost Ranch south on this Continental Divide Trail, 700, 800 miles to the border. And then I hitchhiked, and it took me only one day to hitchhike, believe it or not, from the CDT Lordsburg all the way to the trailhead of the Pacific Crest Trail. And then I started going north. And then I got off at Sawmill Pass, and it's right when you start the Sierras and stuff. It's not too far up there. It's beautiful going down through Sawmill Pass because not very many people do it. So then right after that, I was trying to make it all the way to Bishop Pass, but there's always that cornice, that gnarly cornice. So there's very few hikers that can get up and over that and drop down to Bishop. So I didn't want to take the chance, and I definitely didn't have any ropes. And so I went out at Sawmill, and it was still a little sketchy. I was glissading down the pass for quite a while, and then I dropped into 395, and then I hitchhiked up to Reno to fly out to the East Coast. But mainly, yeah, it takes a lot of training. I feel like I did too much training. So
really,
yeah,
explain that for me.
Well, I just feel like, I was pushing it hard too. Because I was trying to make it closer to Reno before I started hitchhiking. And so I was pushing with a pretty heavy pack in through the Sierras and having cold gear. But I feel like about 1,000 miles was more than enough for training. For me, it doesn't. But yeah, it's kind of mentally, it's very hard to push yourself that hard and wake up and have motivation. And so a lot of the times I took the concept of sleeping so many minutes and then just hiking as far as I could and then sleeping for so many minutes. So a lot of times on my speed record, I would sleep right on the trail, and then I would sleep till someone would walk by, and then I'd wake up and they'd ask me basically if I was okay. And I was like, yeah, thanks, man. You just woke me up. I'm ready to go again. But then maybe every week or two, then I would just be completely drained. I'd have to sleep 12 hours straight. But for the most part, for me, I did a lot of walking on my Appalachian Trail speed record, where you could get a happy medium mix of running and then also walking. But I mean, when I started at my Appalachian Trail speed record, I was still sending out food drops while I was hiking the Appalachian Trail. So I
Oh
sent
my.
out all my food jobs by myself. And before I started hiking, and then I still had a couple of resupplies I need to figure out while I was on trail doing the speed record too. So it was a little stressful.
So basically, the difference between a supported and an unsupported is you're completely on your own. You have to get yourself to town. You have to resupply on your own, get yourself back out to the trail and continue on your way.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that really limits where you can resupply for food and then where you can ship food. And then also like not having a pacer, not having wake up call or like anyone just to give you water when you need water. I mean, sometimes you got to go off trail to get water. So
It seems like the mental game would just be so much harder doing an unsupported because you really have nobody there.
definitely. Yeah, for the most part, I would actually like, even though I wasn't like walking a super fast pace, I would run into people all the time on my speed record and just walk at 2 miles per hour and just talk to people. And they like, I always, it's kind of like what I did when I was walking like any trail. I like to talk to people and see like their background, life story a little bit, like how they grew up and like where they're at now, you know? And so I did that a lot when I was even doing my speed record. I would walk with people doing like 2 miles per hour, believe it or not. And just so I could talk to someone because mentally, like I was, you just gotta like be able to, you know,
You start to lose your mind.
yeah,
When you don't
definitely.
talk to humans, you start to lose your brain.
I mean, I was blowing past tons of people, but yeah, I just gotta find that happy medium too.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on Timothy Olson? Have you been following his journey?
So is it the guy that did the PCT?
Yeah.
Okay, so believe it or not, I don't even pay attention to speed records anymore after like my incident.
Yeah.
But my buddy from Colorado hit me up. He's like, dude, are you serious? And he like messaged me. I was like, okay, like I don't got time for this right now. So like 2 weeks later, I think it was like 5 days ago, I like looked up some stuff and I was, yeah, I haven't done much information on it. But correct me if I'm wrong. He did lots of road walking because to get around the fire closers, or he didn't even do road walking and he hitchhiked or took cars and then kept going.
It's hard to say because they're claiming that he now holds the speed record, the supported speed record. So I think he did road walking around, but whatever he did, it's supposedly legitimate.
Yeah. See,
How does
I
that
mean,
work? I mean, how does a trail, how does a record, how is a record legitimate if you have to do a whole lot of road walking?
yeah, I totally disagree with that. If it's not the trail, if it's not the same miles, it should not be the speed record.
Talk to me about the politics of all of this. I feel like there's some politics behind this, behind speed records.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I've gotten out of it a lot now, but in 2017, right after I went through all that craziness, I mean, I was getting hit from every side, and I mean, they did a bit on me. I can't even remember what her name was, but she like interviewed me and then she didn't get back to me, and then she posted stuff that wasn't even true. And then like the judges for the FKT is just, I mean, they're not even agreeing on the same rules and the same concepts. So I don't know who like they're going through, but it's obviously like they're letting people do this and then they're letting people do that. And then now they're doing a bunch of other stuff too. So like I haven't paid attention since 2017 too much, but
Did it kind
I,
of give you a distaste in your mouth for all of it?
yeah, definitely. Like especially how I was treated. It was way over the top. Like I went in there, I did everything I needed to do. My GPS, my spot device broke literally 3 times in my life. So now I have a Garmin InReach mini. But yeah, my spot device, and even when I was doing that, like they had absolutely nothing to disprove like my speed record, but they were just like trying to bash me constantly. And so they came out with like tons of information. Because I talked to one guy and then he like tried to disprove everything. And then I was like, he came up with like this one sheet and he's like, well, then try to disprove it. And I was like, well, I think I can, but like I still have it in my Google documents, but like I'm just over it.
It must have
whatever.
taken a little bit to get over that one though.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, it didn't help that a chick cheated the year before and then trying to get sponsors, and then the other female with her saying that she hiked the AT and the PCT on a robot leg. You remember that lady?
I do remember hearing about her just briefly.
It was on NBC nighttime. It was on national news, man. And so like this company was like trying to like sell their stuff, and that's how I took it. And so like she said she did it, but I mean, you know, the PCT, she
Yeah.
claimed she did it in the snow with her like robot leg, and like you can't do that, not in snow, man.
No, that's a hard one to believe.
So it was blatantly obvious if you know anything about it, and it was on like, but yeah,
Trying to sell some products.
basically. And the
Yeah.
thing is, like when I did my speed record, I already did the PCT, the AT, and the CDT. I already did my Triple Crown, and I did the GDT and the Superior Hiking Trail. So it's not my first, like, I do it the right way. And, you know, tons of people like I've ran into, you know, they knew me and stuff. And I talked to tons of people on the Appalachian Trail. I mean, there's tons of people like, what are you talking about? Like, he clearly did it, you know?
Oh, totally.
But-
I think there's a lot of people who were definitely on your side with this, but the
Oh, yeah.
politics of it just it really did not seem in your favor whatsoever.
Yeah. So basically, right when I finished, I was like, okay, I finished. And Peter Bachwin was overseas internationally, and he doesn't even make a comment to me. He's like, well, I'm overseas, like I can't do this or that, I'm on vacation. I'm like, okay, whatever. And then they finally get back to me a little bit, and then they like try like discrediting me. It was just like, it didn't feel like I broke a speed record. It felt like I was being interrogated constantly, because like, yeah, what I went through was, no one should ever go through that.
Yeah. Oh, that's awful. Well, just so you know, there was a lot of people out there cheering you on, man. And when you finished that up, man, we were definitely excited about what you had done. And
Yeah, dude, it was pretty crazy.
Here, I'm going to talk about Argentina, right? When you turn on TV, when you see international news, even local news, everything is scary. You know, we live in the worst place on earth, and we live in the worst possible planet. People are disgusting. The world is horrible. Everybody hates us as Argentinians, and I believed that in a sense. You know, I left home very scared of, I didn't even know what, but I was full of fear of people, of everything I heard of media. And then when I started traveling the first day I started, I left home 10 blocks away from home. The car broke up. And I didn't know anything about mechanics because I came from the office. And 10 minutes later, someone came, helped me to push the car out of the main road. And then another guy just came out of nothing saying like, hey, what's going on? How can I help you? A guy that I didn't know and I wasn't expecting at all. He went under the car by himself. He fixed the thing, which I didn't know what it was. And he said, okay, man, you're ready to go to Alaska. And I was like, what? What do you mean? That's it? And you're leaving without, he didn't even ask for money. He didn't even ask for anything else. He said like, hey, have a good day. Take care. And I was shocked. You know, that was my first, not even my first day. That was my first 10 minutes traveling. And then that's the same moment when I realized, okay, I think this will be big.
Talk to me about the bus. Clarita is the name of the bus.
Clarita, yeah. Clarita comes from Clara, which is Claire in English. Clara is my younger sister, so Clarita is the name after her. And it's a bus. Honestly, people think like I wanted that bus because it represents the hippie movement or this or that. I wasn't a hippie. I actually wanted to buy something else, but I didn't have the money for it. So pretty much Clarita is the only thing I could afford. Then with time, this car became super expensive because kind of became a trend or whatever. But yeah, all I needed was a little roof where I could sleep. And I just put a mattress and nothing else. And I just, left.
Wow. You left
Full of
with
fear.
full of fear, full of fear.
Full of fear.
Wow.
Absolutely.
So I'm interested to hear your take on the fear that you had when you left and how you look at the world differently now than you did when you left. But you left with $1,500 around there, correct?
And exactly. That's the number.
Okay.
Which here is a lot of money. And then traveling, I realized it's nothing. But what I always say, especially to other travelers who ride and they want to know, because everyone wants to know about money. Money is the main thing when they see you traveling. It's like, where do you get the money from? How much money you spend on this, on that? And it's not important how much money you have. It's important which tools you have to make money. You don't need $1,500. You need every day $10, $15 when you're traveling. If you have $100, better. If you have 3 million, of course, welcome. But it's not true that you need to have a lot of money to travel, and even if you start traveling with $1 million, you spend it. So it's better to have the tools, which I didn't have, than the money, because the tools help you to make money. So of course I learned all this on the way, because I wasn't a hippie, like I said. It wasn't hard. It wasn't easy for me to show up in a park and juggle a bit or paint or do some music and get money. So I studied a business career for the office. So yeah, that was part of the challenge as well, how to make money.
So, okay, so you leave Argentina, you actually went to the southern tip of Argentina, and then you headed north. Just give me an overview of, the places that you have been.
All right. So I started, like you said, I started in Argentina. I went down south to Ushuaia, which is the southern city in the continent. And then I crossed to Chile. And then I went to Brazil. I went back to Argentina to cross to Brazil for the World Cup in 2014, soccer World Cup. And then I crossed through Paraguay, Bolivia, Peru, Ecuador, Colombia, Panama, Costa Rica, Nicaragua, Honduras, El Salvador, Guatemala, Belize, Cuba, Mexico, States, Canada, Alaska, and then down to Canada, to the States and to Mexico, where we shipped the bus to Europe.
How do you feel about the number of people who you have inspired along the way? You have over 36,000 followers on Instagram, and my guess is that a lot of those people are people who you have met along the way, at least some of them. I mean, you've met a lot of people who have been following you, and I know that you've inspired a lot of people. How does that make you feel being an inspiration to other people?
I hear you now, and I get very emotional because I miss a lot of the people that I met, very simple people, and when you say a lot of people got inspired by my story, but what we are doing, I don't believe it, really. I mean, I don't believe it myself. I don't see myself inspiring people, because at the end, I'm the one who's taking from people. Like, I'm the one who's getting inspiration from different people. Like, every person I meet, I never see it I'm giving. I see it that I'm receiving from these people. You are one of them. You and all your crew, when I met you all. And, the more people you meet, the more stereotypes you break, the more barriers, mental borders that you break. And I never saw myself as somebody like inspires other people, even though sometimes I hear it and it sounds very nice. I guess I'm not used to that, but the truth is that I'm the one who's gaining from people, in a sense, taking in a good way, of course. People taught me a lot. I left this place full of hate in when I was living here, because when someone does something that he or she doesn't like, at one point you will not like, you will not love. And I left home full of hate. I didn't want to see anybody. I just wanted to be out. And then little by little, people taught me how to love, because they were showing me their love. And you cannot love if you don't feel loved. And that's how I felt traveling. People, everyone I met, they were showing love, respect, they were kind. So at one point, I guess that's what I started learning from them, and that's what I'm trying to also give back to other people. So yeah, I get very emotional when it comes to people and some like particular stories, because there are some characters out there that I tell Olga that I wish I was rich just to like put them all together in one dinner, like the last dinner, I wish I could fly them all down here and say, hey, this is my country. Here you have a massive Argentinian barbecue. It's all on my own. That's the only reason why I would say in life, I would like to be rich, People who don't even have passports, people who don't even have passports. Some people don't even have toilets, out there.
How has the last few years helped to shape your perception of humanity?
I think there's only, humanity is one, and there's only one way forward for everybody. Men, women, white, black, green, blue, Muslim, Jewish, Catholics. The only way forward is all together as a species. With the other species, we're not more than any other species out there. And I'm very positive, and we have these conversations here, especially, because of our travels. People ask me all the time, like, are you positive or negative with the future? I'm very positive. And it's because of what I see or what I saw or what I experienced. And then people say like, yeah, but look, in Iraq, this and this is happening. And it's like, okay, but you're not in Iraq. You don't know what's happening in Iraq. You're in Argentina. And here they're showing you the news of Cuba or of Iraq or not even Africa, because no one cares. But, if you're in Argentina, why don't you see what's going on in Argentina and take care of that and take action of that? It seems that you go to Iraq and they're talking about the news of Argentina. You go to Argentina, they're talking about the news of Iraq. And everything is to not see what's going on next to us, because this is what we can do. What we can change is what it's next to us. I'm not saying that I don't care, but the issues between Palestine and Israel, for example, which there's nothing we can do from here. I'm not saying it's not happening. I'm not saying who's wrong, who's right, but I'm saying we are here. I'm here. I can change for good. I can do a change here. So let's focus on what we have, on what we do, what we are here. And based on what I saw that people did with us at that moment, at that place, I'm pretty positive. Yeah.
Let's help these people get over what they're dealing with, because as we know, 3/4 or more of all of the homeless people is from drug and alcohol abuse.
Yeah.
That is why they are in that situation. And so it's a sickness. That is a sickness, and they need help. And so my answer is we definitely shouldn't be rounding them up and putting them all in jail. That doesn't seem like it makes any sense, or prison or jail. But, there does need to be some accountability. And we need facilities to help these people out. But here's the thing. If you're a Christian, they always say that we are the church, right? The people are the church. Also, the Simply Overcoming sign is about ready to fall off the wall. And so this has happened 3 times now.
It's okay. We're going to
And,
continue to go despite the sign.
We are going to keep going despite the sign. But yeah. So what was I saying? We are the church, right? And so you may say, man, my city needs more facilities to help these homeless people. Why aren't you doing something?
Yes.
You're saying my city needs to create some new facilities so that we can help these homeless people. Well, guess what? Things don't get done without people. So if you really want to help these people, if you have a heart for these people, then get out there and start helping them.
Yes.
There are already some facilities. These facilities exist.
Yes.
Help them get into a facility or help them get a job if you want to help them. And here's the thing. If they don't want help, then there is nothing that you can do. And maybe that's where a professional comes in.
Now, there's the word, because that is the professional. So I have gotten myself into situations. I am not a trained social worker. Yeah, do you want to just go over there? Yeah, you go fix it. I'm not a trained social worker, Aaron, and so I don't know how to deal with a lot of these things that people have needs with. But there are people who are trained to do this. And so like here in our town, at the Christian Aid Center, it's a wonderful organization. Portland has the Portland Rescue Mission, and there are many different people who can help where I am not trained to do that. I can see someone who has a need, and I can know that there's a need. But like with Taylor, where the nativity is and where the Christian Aid Center is probably 2 miles or a little bit more away. And so he needed a ride closer. By you driving him to Taco Bell, that was closer, and you were willing to do that. So you took him there and you dropped him as close to the Christian Aid Center as and whatever rescue mission, just name your pick. But in our town, it's a Christian Aid Center. And he could then walk from there to get the help that he needed.
Yep.
And that's where I might not know what to do, but I know who to call. I know, and that maybe goes back to being aware of what is in your town, being aware what departments, what churches, what organizations do have help, because in our town we have a thing called Blue Mountain Action Council that helps people find housing. We have Helpline. We have a free medical clinic, SOS Medical Clinic, where dentists and doctors, they volunteer their time to come in and provide medical care for people. We have the thrift store that I mentioned that helped us with the baby Jesuses. And we want to say thank you to some person donated those dolls.
Yeah.
But at that thrift store, people can come in and say, you know what, I need to clean up my act here. And they will take you through the store and they will outfit you.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And so maybe I think that there are situations where people legitimately just don't know that those facilities exist. So, if you do want to help a homeless person, maybe let them know that these things exist and hope that they want help.
Right. But it comes a step further, and this is where it has to start inside. It has to start inside with having some gumption. And that's where, despite whatever has happened to these people, and again, I don't know Taylor's whole story. We were with him for an hour or whatever, and he didn't talk that much. But you have to make a decision and make up your mind to do something. So as I mentioned, after I said goodbye to you and Taylor, I went to this grocery store, and there was a marquee. So Jesse was a 58-year-old man in our town who was probably by many standards, people might have said developmentally challenged. Jesse was the ambassador of our town. Jesse rode a 3-wheeled bike. Jesse wore a neon vest, and it was Jesse who was there to help with you with your cart. He was the one who was smiling. You would I'd honk and wave at Jesse. Well, Jesse passed away last week, and our whole town, and I'm getting shivers just telling you about it, our whole town has loved this man, and he has loved all of us. Jesse might not have ever gotten a college degree, Aaron, but Jesse was out doing something every day. He was on the same street. And so for me to have this experience of having no baby Jesus in the manger, you and I meeting Taylor, to be able to go and share about all of this with these 2 employees, and then to find out that Jesse had passed away. Jesse didn't have all of the things that, many of us are blessed with, but he made a difference in our town. He made a difference, and the outpouring of love has been phenomenal. So, and back to panhandling. So I've been blessed to have lived in many countries, and I've been able to travel to many countries, many many third world countries. And there have been so many panhandlers and so many sad situations. And I know that as I say this, Aaron, you've traveled as well, and you've seen many people in other countries. There was one man, though, and he was on the streets of Hong Kong, and his torso, his legs were very small. His arms were very small. He was actually probably no more than maybe, 3 3 feet tall, maybe even that. But you know what? This man was on a crosswalk in Hong Kong. All these hundreds of people going by, shopping, cars, all of this commotion. And this man had a microphone, and he had a little boom box, and he had a dish there, a metal dish for putting coins in. So you might have thought this man was panhandling. But you know what? This man was singing in Chinese, and all these people walked by, Aaron. And here he is down on the ground, and all these people walked by. But this man was doing a job, the only job that he could do, and he was there singing to all of us. And the important thing is that we see people, even if you smile at somebody, you know, you might not know what just smiling can do for somebody. And I'm blessed with 7 fingers. I was born this way. So I see people because I've got something different going on the outside, and many of us have something different going on the outside, and some of us have something going different on the inside, and some of us have both. But this man, I connected with him. He's singing away in Chinese. I got down on my knee and I put my hands out so he could see that I had something going on too. And that was a connection that I had. I'm not fluent in Chinese. He's probably not fluent in English. He kept singing, and that was a connection that we had. So I think to bring this all around, you know, there might not be something that you and I can maybe have done more for Taylor, but you and I saw him and we did something. We tried.
All right, everyone. I hope you enjoyed that episode. If you have a story, or if you know somebody that has a story of overcoming impossible odds, and you think that that story would be good on the Simply Overcoming podcast, I would really like to hear from you. You can send me a personal text message. You can call my personal phone number. It's 208-718-2276. Reach out to me. Let's have a conversation. I love one-on-one conversations with people. And maybe you don't want to be on the podcast, but maybe you want to reach out anyway and talk to me about an episode that you heard, something that inspired you. Reach out to me. I'd really love to hear from you. You know, one of the things that has continued to push me forward in the creation of this podcast are the people out there, and you know who you are, the people who have reached out to me personally through Instagram and through Messenger on Facebook and just thanked me for creating the podcast and all of the episodes that have been such a benefit to them in their life. So I'd love to hear from you. Reach out to me. Let's have a conversation. So happy New Year, and I will talk to you next time in 2022.